Welcome to the Health Coach Nation podcast. My name is Hailey Rowe, and I'm a sales and marketing coach and LinkedIn lead generation service provider. I work with health, life, and mindset coaches and online service-based business owners to help them get more sales, shift their time to the client-generating activities instead of just the busy work, and overcome that social media overwhelm. Let's get into the show. If you're ready to take on your next paying clients, I have good news. My free 4 Basics of Client Attraction and How to Stand Out class is live at haileyrowe.com/client-attraction. In the class, you're going to learn the top 2 traits I recommend for most coaches and entrepreneurs if they really want to turn this into a career. You're going to learn how you can build demand for your services and stop getting crickets on your posts. You're going to learn the sales roadmap I used to improve my sales conversion rate and help my clients do the same. And you're going to learn so much more. So go to haileyrowe.com/client-attraction and get your copy of the class today. I am here today with Anat Peri, and she is an expert in all things coaching and improving your coaching skills. And today we're going to talk a little bit about going beyond just thought work or mindset type of coaching and actually getting into our bodies and what does that have to do with, your clients and helping them make the transformation they want to make. And we're going to dive into all of that. So before we do that, why don't you just share your story with the audience and how you got into what you do and what you do?
Yeah, thank you, Hailey. Great to be here. So I've been in the industry for 19 and a half years. And what got me into it was really my own healing, even though I was always interested in the world of psychology and all that. But I was in my early 20s, and it was really my relationship with my mom that got me on that journey. And the second I experienced my first weekend event, I was in love with the industry. I loved witnessing people have their aha moments and transformations. And that was the beginning of it. And for the next 8 years, for the next 8 years, I was seeking to find myself. And there was a major struggle in that for me because the work that I was doing, you're talking 19 years ago, what's available now wasn't available then. People can just go on Instagram and find all these different coaches and stuff. It was basically a lot of live events. And the work back then was a lot of mindset or NLP, which is definitely part of the equation, but not the whole equation. And so my struggle with it was that I was trimming weeds and I didn't know it at the time. I really thought I found the Holy Grail. And I just kept trying and trying. But 8-9 years into it, my life was still in shambles. I had no self-love. I really struggled with spending any time with myself. So I was super codependent in my romantic relationship with my friends. And I was living in New York. So there's a lot of hustle and bustle, which is like, okay, there's a lot of people here. And at the same time, I had a lot of anxiety from the amount of energy that was there. So it was this constant tug and pull of like hiding in my apartment, but also not wanting to be alone. And I struggled with self-esteem. I struggled with my relationship with my mother. I really at the time didn't know it, but I had no connection to knowing how to nurture myself. So there was this always feeling of emptiness and needing other people to help and support to nurture my inner child. And I hit my rock bottom in 2012. Thank you. Best thing ever happened. So if you're in that moment, just start saying thank you because there's definitely a gift in it. And, my 5-year relationship came to an end. And I just decided in that moment, like there's nothing here in New York that I really want anymore. It's the relationship that was keeping me here. And so I, 3 weeks later, hopped on a plane with $2,000 to my name, no job lined up, no car, one friend in San Diego that I was going to stay with, and no self-love, and $40,000 in debt. And it was in that moment that it really humbled me to be like, okay, I know a lot. I have a lot of awareness, but clearly that awareness isn't translating to the life that I really desire. And so I started to embark on a new journey of new things, explored yoga and meditation and plant medicine, and was just beautifully guided by the universe to all these new experiences that within 2 years led to me meeting my mentor and doing the deepest work I'd ever done. The inner child work, somatic work, and realizing in that moment that transformation is not a walk in the park on a beautiful sunny day, like meaning it's not just having these aha moments and it's not quick. It's walking through a burning forest and there's dragons to slay. Meaning there's many, many moments where you feel that you have to feel the things. Like I had to feel the things I never wanted to feel. I had to grieve the parts that I never wanted to grieve. I had to learn to nurture and hold myself. But on the other side of that, the level of freedom that I experienced, I couldn't imagine. Like I was like, I want to go travel, which I did. I want to travel by myself. I want to get away from people. Like for the first time in my life, I enjoyed my own company and I wanted that. And so I did that for about 6 months. And then I was like, I now 10 years into this journey of development, I want other people to experience the freedom that I'm experiencing. And so I reached out to my mentor because he said to me, you have a gift with this. And if you ever want to apprentice with me, let me know. And apprentice with him for a few months, and about going on actually 9 years ago this month, started Training Camp for the Soul with the intention to just support people the way that I was supported and help people get the freedom that I got. And it quickly took off. I didn't expect it to be where I am today, which is certifying other coaches and healers in my method. But it was my clients that would say to me, this is incredible. I want to learn to do what you do. And so after 4 years of hearing that, I started listening and started really framing what my method is. And then it was around 2020 during COVID that I was like, the world needs this now more than ever. And I beta tested my first round of my certification program. And now I'm just, 4 years in, about to launch my 8th cohort. And it's where my heart is at. It's just so fulfilling to not only have impacted hundreds of people's lives, but also now to see my coaches in an industry that has blown up since COVID. There's so many people. I mean, this, Hailey, probably more than anyone as a business coach, how many people have stepped into this field, which is beautiful. But I see that a lot of them are still coaching from what they overcame and a couple of tools. And it's overwhelming at times, and there's a lack of confidence, or they're burning out because they're doing too much of the work, and they're really missing that frame, having a method, having a process, and knowing the difference of who they're working with and what to support them through. So that's my jam.
Yeah, what a journey. And I think a lot of coaches go through their own journey that leads them into coaching. But as you said, it's not just sharing what you've gone through. You have to understand your client and what, they are looking for. And it's not necessarily about your journey. It's about using tools with them to help them achieve whatever it is that they want to do. So tell me a little bit more about this method that you speak of. And I also know you talk a little bit about different personality patterns and how they're different. So tell us a little more about this method that you use and why it's different than other methods.
Yeah, so the method, the umbrella of it, I'd say underneath that, there's really a trifecta. There's 3 key parts that go beyond just having tools, great tools. First off, it's understanding that there's 5 stages to healing. And when a client comes to you, it's not just, they're at this stage of their healing in totality. It's whatever they're bringing to that session with you. It's an opportunity to learn and recognize what stage are they at and how to complete them through the 5 stages. And because a lot of times we think we have to start at the beginning with every client. And so this gives you a real process to follow in that sense. And I could get into what they are if we want to do that. And then there's the foundational framework, which is that what we all have in common as humans is that at one point we were little kids that didn't know what to do and just looked at mom and dad as our role models, and everything was developed by the time we were 7 years old. So by the time we were 7 years old, our script of how to operate in life was pretty much set in place. And most of it we learned from mom and dad. And so for you to understand that there's so much opportunity with a client to explore what they learned, and that it's not who they are, that it is what they learned. And if they learned it, they can unlearn it. To understand that everything is energetically learned, or from what you see, what you hear from mom and dad, and that you had to either copy, rebel, or create a way to survive it. And so most people are not showing up as their higher self if they haven't done the work to step into their higher self. And it's not necessarily that there was trauma there. You don't need to have like big T trauma. It's learning. It could be that mom was always busy, taking care of the house and everyone. She was wonderful. She was the best mom ever. But did you ever see her sit down and do anything for herself? No, I didn't. Oh, and now you wonder why you struggle with self-care and taking time for yourself, because you might have learned put others first. Always keep busy. Others' needs are more important than yours. So it's not necessarily a trauma that's there, but a learning. So there's so much that opportunity for us to work with our clients in exploring their landscape, right? Their script that they inherited. So that's the second part, the depth that you could go in exploration with a client. And then the third one you hit upon a bit, which is that there's different personality patterns, safety strategies that we create, that we take on. And these safety strategies come from not knowing how to create safety within ourselves. And when we're not getting the developmental needs that we had in certain stages in our childhood met. And when that developmental need wasn't met, what comes in is this safety strategy. I like to call it like a bodyguard. Everyone gets like, there's 5 personality patterns, and everyone has a primary and a secondary that shows up when you're overwhelmed. Kind of like the 2 bodyguards for the little girl or little boy that don't know how to take care of themselves. And so most people right now in life are operating out of their safety strategies. I see it every day in relationships, in business, and there's gifts to them. So some people are really thriving in theirs in a particular area of their life. It really works, but in other areas it doesn't. And so the gift of learning and understanding, I do a lot of work with this in my certification program, is understanding that you could have great tools. You could have even a great method and a great process. But if you don't know their safety strategies and how to help them out of needing to use that to survive, to feel safe, you can't coach your clients the same way. You have to first understand their pattern and be able to help them come out of that and into safety, because healing doesn't occur when people don't feel safe.
Yeah. Okay. So give us maybe an example of a safety strategy and how you might work with a client with that safety strategy as opposed to another.
Yeah. So, I'll give you a couple examples. So one of the patterns is the leaving pattern. And this is a developmental need that wasn't met by whether it's the earliest one, either in utero or up to 3 months old. And the developmental need was to feel safe to come into this world, to literally be in our bodies, to occupy our bodies. And let's say mom had a very hard third trimester or traumatic birth experience, then that pattern can develop. And what that looks like in clients a lot of times is that they dissociate. It's any big emotion, any feeling is too much for them, and they leave their body. They go into their head. They want to logically understand things. They'll tend to talk really fast because they're not really connected to their body, right? And it'll all be in the head, and they'll be even, it even forms your body type. Like they'll be very frail in their system, and a lot of times quick to just give up on things in their life. So when working with a client like this, I know that there's a lot that they need in stage 1 of healing, which is a lot of self-regulation, a lot of learning around how to regulate their nervous system to start to feel safe to be in their body. So if I'm working with them, I know that I'll probably spend at least 4 sessions before I even get to stage 2 with them. And stage 2 is another one that I'll probably spend a lot of time on. Stage 2 is acceptance, is learning how to, it's the somatic stage of learning how to ride the waves of our emotions, how to fully feel the feeling that's there. But once I move them through that, they usually go really fast through the rest of them. Another one is the merging pattern. And this was my primary pattern. And the merging pattern is a pattern that gets formed out of the developmental need for nurturance from, when the child is 3 months old or even born till about 3 years old, and usually for mom. And it's whether it wasn't emotionally met, the nurturance, or physically, like literally not getting enough of mom's breast milk, that this safety strategy gets formed of there isn't enough. I didn't get enough. So there's always this feeling of not enough, not enough. I remember the physical feeling of it for me was a hollowness in my body, like a hollowness in my chest, like a black hole. And the tendency was always to collapse. Like, I don't know what to do. Like, I don't know how to give myself that because it wasn't modeled to me, the nurturance. And so these are the clients, how to recognize it in a client is they're going to come to you and they're going to want you to save them. They're the damsel in distress. Like, I need you. They'll want to talk a lot. Talk. They're the ones that love talk therapy because they could just dump their problems onto someone else and feel momentarily better. But then in the long term, oh, there it is. It's still not enough. It's never enough. So when I work with a client like this and I recognize that this is their primary pattern, I know that I need to teach them what they never learned, which is how to self-soothe, how to hold themselves. And a lot of times to go back to the origin of what they needed from mom that they didn't get, and literally hold their inner child, hold that younger version of themselves, and let that part of them cry and weep and give themselves that love, that acceptance, that nurturance. And from there, we start to build that muscle more so that they can move through the stages of healing. So those are 2 examples.
Yeah, definitely some interesting examples and things I'm sure us as coaches have seen here and there, either in ourselves or in our clients. And when it comes to this whole idea or concept of somatic coaching or inner child coaching, can you just tell us a little more for someone who's maybe new to that concept? Maybe they've learned a model about, behavioral change or habits or NLP is a different, there's so many different methods, right? And this somatic and inner child concept has been coming up more and more, and there's been more and more certifications about it. So for someone who's new to that and is like, do I need this? Like, what is this all about? Can you just tell the beginner what they should know about somatic coaching and or inner child work and maybe the difference between the 2 things?
Yeah, great. So I'll start with the inner child, and I have coined myself an inner child expert. I've been working in the inner child space now for the past 9 years, and I'd say it's a huge part of my work. And you want to think of the inner child as your emotions. It's the part of you that feels, whether it's happy, joyful, excited, or it's, depressed, sad, complaining, like whatever it is, like that's that little younger version of you. So starting to relate to, this is the part that's been stunted and needs a lot of growing to do, a lot of nurturance, a lot of unlearning. So going back to, my method of the foundational work is, let's look at the script of what did your younger self get handed? What did they learn? Or was there a gap in learning because dad wasn't even in the picture? And so it's looking at mom and dad and the roles they played, mom being an extension of self, because at one point she was. So mom really is the role model for everything self-related. Dad is everything that's not the self, others, the world, how you show up with others in relationship, in career, all that. And so it goes beyond just look yourself in the mirror and tell yourself, I love myself, I love myself. It's or just holding that little one, because I know a lot of inner child work people think is just that, and more of giving that child a chance to know who they really are, to unlearn what they learned and step into their highest version of themselves by uncovering what do they learn in those areas, the most important areas of development, your ability to set limits and boundaries with yourself and others, needs and wants with your, like knowing what you need and want, giving yourself that, and also knowing how to express that with others. Responsibility, maturity, connection to yourself, connection to others. You want to self-esteem. You want to think of these like subjects in school, and mom and dad mom was the teacher for all the ones related to self, and dad was the teacher for all the ones related to not self. And either they passed you functional learning or dysfunctional learning. So either you're like, I'm really good with limits and boundaries with others, or you're just like, what's boundaries? What is that? Or somewhere in the middle. And so this is the opportunity, is to look at what you learned and help that younger version of yourself develop wherever they got stunted. Because when you have all those in a healthy state, right, when they're functional, is when you could really thrive in life and not just be surviving. So to me, that's the foundation, because once you have that in place, you can really approach any challenge or opportunity that comes into your life from an embodied place. So to me, that is the inner child work. And then where it ties in and connects to somatic work is the remembering that the inner child is your emotions. And somatic work is about the totality of not just our thoughts, but also the energy and the emotions that are moving through us that we feel. And what I've come to discover is that most of us don't know how to feel our feelings. Most of my clients over the years come to me and they can talk about their feeling. They can intellectualize it. They want to fix it. They tend to run away from it or stuff it down or want to change it, but nobody actually knows how to feel their feeling, how to move this energy through them, how to, what I call, build their nervous system's capacity to handle more. So, for example, if you grew up in a household that was chaotic, you're familiar with that feeling of chaos, and you have safety strategies to move through it. But moments of peace and joy may be really uncomfortable for people. So it's not always the quote unquote negative emotion that people can't handle. It's just emotions that are unfamiliar to our body, to our nervous system, that you're just like, this feels uncomfortable. And for some people, it is joy, it is love, it is all these. And so somatic work is learning how to work. And somatic work, as I define it, is learning how to work with our nervous system in building our capacity to feel more.
Nice.
And I could go deeper if you'd like.
I like that. Learning our capacity to feel more. Yeah. So, okay, this has been super helpful. And actually, you are one of my guest experts in the inner circle, and you took us through an example of really what it's like to feel your feelings and process, so that my clients could see that and see, a glimpse of your work and see how they could maybe help their clients on a deeper, more transformational level. So what if somebody else listening to this wants to learn more about the work you do and see it in action and all that good stuff? Where can people connect with you, check you out, all that good stuff?
Yeah, so I hang out on Instagram. If you follow me there, you will get a message from me within a week maximum. I like to connect with the human behind the follower and really get to know you and what you're seeking, because I have free resources. I have a whole, network of people. If it's not me, I obviously have great programs myself. And and then on my website, trainingcampforthesoul.com, I have a great free guide for coaches and healers to start to work with the personality patterns and recognize it in their clients. And and then my programs and retreats.
Amazing. And we'll put some of those links in the show notes and in the comments section for this LinkedIn Live. And I really appreciate you for being here. Thanks for giving us a glimpse into this world of energetics coaching. And I'll talk to you soon.
Yeah. Thank you, Hailey. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks so much for listening to this podcast. And if it's really helpful for you, I'd really appreciate if you share it and or leave a written podcast review. This tells the podcast sites that our show is useful, and it will be promoted to more people that way. Thanks again.